Edutainment for us. Thank you so much for keeping it tuned to our channel all the time, and I appreciate those who are keeping subscribing to us. Of course, as a channel, we are here to react to political and social matters, and at the same time give lessons when time comes. Currently, I'm not doing many lessons, but I'll be getting time to do so. Of course, I'm conducting a national exercise that is really eating into my time, but all is well because I'm looking for Mula here. All right. So thank you so much for always coming back to my channel and watching, and I appreciate. Now I've got some about let's say 40 minutes I may sacrifice for that before I just go for lunch that is supposed to start in the next 23 minutes. So guys, thank you so much for keeping it tuned, and there are a lot of issues happening around Kenya, Tanzania, and of course in Tanzania there is a total shutdown. And the truth be told, Samia actually has decided to go the compact way as a way to actually counter the young people who want to march against her. So she has decided to use her energy to really tell the young people that they have no space actually to frustrate her, or rather frustrate her and her authority. Remember, Samia was actually one of those leaders who came in after the death of the former president, and being a running mate, she had to take over leadership. And since then, Samia actually happened to look like she was going to work against dictatorial leadership, or authoritarian rather, and the Tanzanian was so happy. However, we have had a lot of frustrations in multi-party, including Tundu Lissu and any other political party in Tanzania. Of course, lately, after the swearing in, we saw she swore in her daughter and her son-in-law, one in the Ministry of Education and another one in the Ministry of Health. I don't just know whether this can happen in Kenya or any other country. Probably if you know about a country that is doing the same, you can drop a comment so that I know about this. Because politics is part of the thing that I'm currently having a lot of interest in. Of course, the Benin situation, I remember we were told it was calmed down. I've not really followed up to understand what's going. And Guinea-Bissau, the coup was conducted. Sudan, issues are still not very good. Nigeria, of course, matters are not very good at all. Uganda, the still ongoing, but with a lot of frustration through the opposition. But they are doing better than Tanzania. Of course, at least Uganda has a way in which they are trying to fight for democracy. But when you look at Tanzania, they have not yet begun to fight for democracy, right? So guys, let's go to Tanzania and check on what is happening. People are actually forced to sit indoors just like rats. And, maybe, think over their life, because yesterday you saw that there were some people who were arrested for having been suspected to plan for rather coup demonstrations. So Joseph George, welcome. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I appreciate your presence here. Thank you so much. And in the morning it was a little bit cold here. That's why I'm dressed the way I am. But currently it's a bit warm. However, in the rooms it's not warm yet. Yeah, so guys, Tanzania, there are no people in the streets, and people have decided to stay away from the streets. The Tanzanian citizens don't like trouble like Kenyans, or maybe other people from other countries. We've seen demonstrations in Botswana, Cote d'Ivoire, and many other places, including, did we see another one in, was it Gabon or something like that? So welcome to the channel, and thank you so much. If you are new here, consider subscribing to the channel as we move ahead with time. So let's check on the streets of Tanzania, and of course you'll realize that there's nobody. People have stayed away at home to avoid trouble, because yesterday we saw the commander-in-chief of armed forces speaking, and after that we also saw an indication from the police, and they stopped anything from happening. Like, people should not go, cross the borders. they also gave orders that you buy essentials and stay indoors. And there were all sorts of demands, including indicating that only those who are in kind of essential services like military and maybe nursing would be allowed to go anywhere today. So there's a total lockdown in Tanzania where people have been forced to stay indoors. So okay, Watanzania, najua kwamba wengine wenu mnatazama hii channel yangu, na ningependa sana muje hapa muweze kuchangia kupitia kwa yale ambayo nazungumzia sasa hivi. So we have Joseph George, thank you so much for coming to the channel. We have Cameronyaya. Cameronyaya, you are saying Rio, and I'm like, what is Rio? Which language is that? I don't actually know. But let's get after and see the situation in Tanzania right away. So here we are. This is Tanzania, guys.
Sasa hivi ni saa 3, barabara zina watu. Siku kusherehekea uhuru, watu wamefungiwa ndani kama panya.
The streets of Dar es Salaam
Echate President, hello.
Desperately trying to silence Independence Day, supposed to be a national celebration, has instead turned into a day of shutters pulled down, soldiers at every major junction, fuel stations regulated, and citizens whispering behind locked doors. A day meant to mark freedom has become a day defined by fear. By dawn, the message was unmistakable. Tanzanians were not just advised to stay at home, they were practically forced indoors like rats.
Sasa hivi ni saa 3, barabara zina watu. Siku kusherehekea uhuru, watu wamefungiwa ndani kama panya.
Residents reported police patrols pacing up and down neighborhoods, warning anyone outside that today was a rest day unless they were essential workers. Shops stayed dark, boda operators vanished. Entire estates looked like they had been evacuated, and yet this is the irony that Tanzanians are now pointing out online. Despite being shut indoors, many say they have already achieved part of their protest mission because the level of fear inside the government is visible, measurable, and undeniable. The D9 protest movement, sparked by disputed elections, killings in October, and heavy-handed political climate, did not even need to fill the streets today.
All right, guys, so if I may actually bring you back to Tanzania, remember in October we had a lot of fracas in Tanzania, and they began as early as August. Achate President, I said hi to you. I don't know why you didn't actually get it from me. When you just posted the first hi, I also said hi, but I was also showing something right there, and possibly that is why you are unable to hear, but I already said hi, okay? So welcome, Echate President, and you seem to be new here. Please subscribe to the channel, and let's continue growing it. Cameronyaya, you are also new. Please subscribe to the channel. I request from you. That means a lot to me. Also like the videos, comment, and let's move ahead. So Tanzania actually has been frustrated, and we can see the fear not just among citizens, but we can see also the government is a little bit frustrated and afraid of something. They may not actually equally share and indicate what they fear, but it's clear that Tanzania is not a free state. Because the leaders seem to be afraid of the reaction of citizens, while citizens are afraid about what the government is doing. So people are forced into houses, and some of them have been commenting. Of course, I've shown you one video. One of the bloggers has said that in Tanzania, they were closed indoors like rats, and they had no chance to actually go out. Now, this started just in since April. We saw that Tundu Lissu actually demanded that they would not go for election unless the constitution is changed. However, Samia decided to go the military way, or rather the dictatorial way, in a manner that people have to abide by what she wants or just maybe disappear. And that trend went on. We saw Tundu Lissu was arrested, and later on, elections were conducted, and that came with a lot of loss to Tanzania in terms of life, professions, and the general life of Tanzania was actually messed up big time. Now, currently, the many residents do not feel very comfortable with the Tanzania situation. However, they are being forced to sit indoors because the demands by the government are that nobody should go outdoors. Now, yesterday in the evening, we heard clearly how Tanzanians were told to buy their essentials, stay indoors, and avoid going anywhere as much as possible unless they are serving in certain services. Now, of course, when you look today from 9 a.m. and even up to now, the people in Tanzania are majorly indoors, and this is Independence Day, a day when people are supposed to be out there celebrating. But since we had a group of people in Tanzania who indicated there would be demonstrations and no stop to that, Suluhu decided to have a Suluhu for herself, and the Suluhu for her was that people should stay indoors and nobody should be seen on the streets. Now, this is something that is indicating some sort of fear also in government, because fear can be shown by frustrating people on moving out, and at the same time it can be shown by arresting as many people as possible. And of course, yesterday we saw some Tanzanians who were arrested, and let's just get down to this as we continue discussing this matter. Though I'm not here for too long, I may be here up to just 1:10 about there. So let's check on this again.
Without a single mass march, the state responded with the kind of preemptive force usually reserved for a coup threat to the protesters.
Now, yesterday we had this guy, and these were the demands.
A statement that set the tone for today's enforced stillness. In major cities, Dar es Salaam, Arusha, Mwanza, the signs of a government preparing for confrontation were everywhere. Military trucks stationed at key roundabouts, police in riot gear on standby, surveillance teams monitoring not just the streets but TikTok, X, Facebook, and WhatsApp groups. Tanzanians woke up to a capital city where even the air felt monitored. But the tension today did not emerge from nowhere. It is the aftershock of the October 29th elections, where President Samia Suluhu Hassan was declared the winner with 98% of the vote after most opposition candidates were disqualified. The aftermath was explosive. The UN estimates hundreds killed and over 2,000 arrested during the post-election chaos. Since then, the country has been living inside a long political shadow.
All right, so even though we saw the opposition and other people, actually the human rights people, indicating after elections that they were supposed to go on with the demonstrations, and given that we had a lot of loss of life in thousands and arrests in hundreds, they declared that they were going to seek justice, and this justice would be sought from the streets. Now, this is a common trend in many African nations. If you check with me, you check the situation of Chad, Cote d'Ivoire, Guinea-Bissau, and many other, African nations, the trend has been this: people going to the streets and picketing, but the picketing somehow ends in a kind of, kind of toxic situation, and possibly from listening to what Suluhu has been saying consistently, she has been saying that they have the arms and therefore they have to use them. She's not even sorry about what happened to the citizens, and she just said that may their souls rest in peace. But given that they are structuring the nation, they had nothing else to do apart from that. Gunja Kumari, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on my channel. I appreciate. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, and if you're a returning subscriber, give us a like, please. Give us a like. What are you waiting for? So let's go back to check on the notice that was given earlier about the kind of demonstration that was going to happen. Joseph George says, I've come to know by way of watching you all that each one of all only think of selves, their selfishness, their greediness. I'm not so sure about what you're saying, but let me check on this.
Yale ambayo watu walichoma mali za watu, walichoma vituo vya mafuta, walichoma majengo ya serikali, wamechoma vituo vya polisi.
And the others have continued. Doctors union admins, TikTok creators, Chadema supporters, ordinary citizens who posted the wrong sentence at the wrong time. Just 2 days ago, 116 people were arrested in Mwanza alone, accused of participating in illegal gatherings. Human Rights Watch calls it arbitrary detention. The government calls it maintaining stability. And today, December 9th, the crackdown reached its peak. Independence Day celebrations were cancelled weeks ago, with officials insisting the budget will instead repair infrastructure damaged during the October unrest. But people are not buying that explanation anymore. Online, Tanzanians say the decision had nothing to do with road repairs and everything to do with the rising momentum of D9. The fear of mass protest became so strong that the state's solution was simple: keep everyone inside by any means necessary. Across social media, messages put.
All right, guys. So, you understand that a nation has to sometimes control people. And for them to control people, they realize that the greatest tool that is being used by the current generation is the internet. So what has come out is that countries like Somalia, I did given a reaction on Somalia. I did another one on Sudan. I also did another on Ethiopia. So if countries want to control the citizens, all they are doing is to make sure that there's a blackout even on social media. Or if it's working, then they have to really keep checking to make sure that they are in, up to date about what people are posting. Now in Tanzania, of course, we have had checks being conducted on the people, possibly the bloggers and the supporters of Chadema party, whom believes can actually give derailing information. I may just ask you, especially people like Joseph George, if you actually look at the situation of Tanzania, and to be sincere to yourself, what do you think Tanzania is up to? Is it actually fair to the citizens? Is their decision for lockdown and what they have done in the best interest of the citizens? Of course, we don't expect fracas to continue happening in Tanzania. The country should heal. But then, should Independence Day not be celebrated at all? Would it really have brought people to demonstrate on the streets? I've seen Bali Strikey saying, hello, I am from America. I'm wondering what we should know about what's going on after the elections in Tanzania. I think what we should know about Tanzania is the welfare of the people. Has it been catered for? And look also in terms of development. Is development being equally offered to the Tanzanians? We should also try to understand whether the president, who actually said that she had won 98%, can be fair to everybody in Tanzania. I think those are the things that we need to understand, in my view. And of course, when we see what happened today, we kind of see that maybe the government is frustrated about the situation of the citizens, but at the same time, they are pretending to really put things in order by restraining and putting people in houses. But anyway, I don't know what you think. Let's check another clip, and then we'll be moving to Kenya to check on ODM situation currently, just to report what is happening.
Staring at 23 unread messages, knowing that each response will take 10 minutes to type. We've all been there, typing, deleting, retyping.
All right, so let's get to this.
Samia Suluhu Hassan isn't just preparing for protest. She is mobilizing like it is a military operation.
Sasa mimi leo kichonishangaza ni hili chopa hili. Nimepita maeneo ndugu zangu.
Siwezi hata jua. Hili jambo liko serious kweli? With nationwide demonstrations looming in response to her landslide yet contested re-election, the Tanzanian government has gone full lockdown mode, treating unarmed protesters like an insurgent threat.
Maandamano hayo yanayopewa jina la maandamano ya amani na yasiyo na kikomo yamekosa sifa za kisheria za kuyaruhusu kufanyika.
Now, the October 29th general election, which handed Suluhu over 97% of the vote, left a trail of outrage. Opposition candidates were sidelined, fraud allegations surfaced, and reports of post-election violence, some estimating thousands killed, pushed the country into a state of anxiety.
Kufa jamani, jamani Dar es Salaam tunakufa. Jamani tuoneni huruma jamani. Jamani kama unavyoona jamani hii Dar es Salaam imechachama. Jamani raia, jamani watu ambao mpo kwani. Hii Dar es Salaam imechachama.
Now, as citizens prepare to take to the streets once again tomorrow, that is on December 9th, the atmosphere is less political and more apocalyptic. And here is why. For instance, in Dar es Salaam and other major cities, residents are clearing store shelves of food and water. Streets are quieter than usual. There is no festival in the air, only tension. People aren't expecting rallies, they are expecting views, clashes, and possibly worse.
December 8 ilivyo mjini hapo hiyo. Watu wametoka kufa kutafuta riziki. Lakini bado hawana imani na December 8. December 9 kesho hapo. Kumbuka kuweka hela ndani. Kumbuka kuweka hela ndani. December 9 inakuja hiyo baba. Watu wanakosi hela kesho hapo. Tunajua. Noma sana. Hapa tunajipanga na December 9. December 8 hamna kumpa hela tajiri. Tajiri tutapea na hela December 10. December 8 watu watapea kula wanangu. Noma wanangu. Watu wametoka kufanya kazi mwanangu. Unajua mashepisi. Yaani mpaka tutoke ndo tunaweza kula, lakini bila kutoka hatuwezi kula. Magari ya polisi hapo kama yote mwanangu. Yaani magari ya polisi hapo kama yote. Askari sumola hao, askari kibao. Noma, mbona pira hiyo mbele yangu hiyo. Soko mjini kumewaka mwanangu. Mbona pira hiyo baba? Soko noma sana mwanangu. Tumetoka kupambana. Leo gari yako leo haina watu, gari yako nyeupe, watu wamekimbia mkoani. Yaani kibila sema naona wazee tu, una wazee tu, watu siwaoni. Wanangu kwa wapi? Mko wenda fujo. Naona wazee tu, gari yako nyeupe, watu wamekimbia mkoani. Cheki sema wazee tu. Yaani sema naona wazee tu tukiangalia kwa nyeupe. Gari nyeupe pe kwa baba hata mtu.
Meanwhile, State House is treating this.
So, of course, the State House has decided to treat this as justice to the people. I don't know what you think about this. Some people think that we as reactors, or rather the YouTubers, when we come up with such information, we are selfish. I don't know. Maybe that's what you think. It's okay with you, because opinion is allowed. But fact is fact. And the reality is that the government is possibly treating the citizens like a threat. And every other Tanzanian citizen is a threat. My question would be, Suluhu already said that the Tanzanians have no problem with her. Of course, 98% of them voted for her. And she indicates that most of them, when they were actually visited in prison, they said they went to the street because they didn't want to, but they were paid to. Now, do we still have those people who are supposed to actually share this kind of, do we really have people? My question is, if Tanzania still believes that people are being paid to do what they are doing, I would actually want to understand, why would they restrain people from going to the streets on Independence Day? Because, of course, they said that Tanzanians themselves have no problem with Suluhu and the government, and that 98% of them voted for her. And if that is the truth, then why should she be afraid of Independence Day and keep people indoors? Now, unfortunately, the economy of Tanzania is not so good for everybody. We have citizens who cannot even afford to stock food in the houses. Now, my question is, would they really survive without going to job? So Independence Day became a day to stay away at home. And completely shut down yourself in the house. And still we have people who conduct labor, manual labor jobs. Things that you cannot stop from working on, you're supposed to work on daily for you to survive. People who wash clothes, people who push, like the mkokotenis and all that. They were not able to get to the street and do anything. So Bali Strai says truth is very important. Yeah, I believe truth is very important. And if truth will not be revealed about Tanzania, just as we are getting from others, people sharing out information out there, then Tanzanian is going to be doomed. Now, remember, America actually conducted a research through CNN, and the reality check was actually out, revealing that we have mass graves in Tanzania, revealing that a lot of Tanzanians were actually suffering, that there was pain. There were those who had lost families and nobody cared about it. We had others who were actually put in prison and considered to be treason case, when in reality they did not do it or participate in such crimes. Now, currently as Independence Day, people are kept indoors. It's unfortunate because this is a day they're supposed to celebrate. However, the government decided to have a shortcut and indicate that they were going to use the money which was suitable for Independence Day to restructure and rebuild things that have been destroyed. This is not the first country you are seeing demonstrations and the kind of, what they are calling destruction. We have seen such situations in Kenya, we have seen in Cote d'Ivoire, Cameroon, and other countries. But we have never seen these countries actually declaring Independence Day, a day where people are supposed to be kept in lockdown so that maybe nothing happens. And the military, I also guess the money that is being used on military is just equally a lot than even what could be used on Independence Day. Independence Day is supposed simply to have people coming together to remember the day they gain independence, have speeches done, and possibly maybe traveling and all that. Now you realize that today in Tanzania there was restrictions on fuel provision and stations that were working and the people who are going out and all that. This is unfortunate. I think it's a kind of intimidation because the government is afraid of where the attacks would come from. Let's take on the last bit of this before we go to Kenyan situation on ODM and the other parties. Of course, I've talked about DCP yesterday, and somebody should check on that. All right? It is so weird. Okay?
Protests as a national security crisis. Officials have labeled the demonstrations as illegal and even floated the phrase attempted coup to frame them.
Kama yakiwa hayo ni maandamano yasiyo na hukumu, maandamano ambayo ni makubwa kuliko yale ambayo watu walichoma mali za watu, walichoma vituo vya mafuta, walichoma majengo ya serikali, wamechoma vituo vya polisi, yale yaliyosababisha watu wakafa. Sasa hayo tunayoambiwa ni makubwa zaidi ya hayo. Sasa hayo sio maandamano. Kwanza kwa sababu hayana kibali kwa mujibu wa sheria. Lakini pili, hayaeleweki yanafanywa na wakina nani, ili tujue hata tuzungumze nao. Lakini tatu, yanaambiwa hayana mwisho. Sasa hayo sio maandamano, hayo ni mapinduzi.
The official playbook now reads like a crackdown manual, and this is why. Number one, protests banned nationwide. Police claim organizers failed to submit formal notices, a technicality that is now being wielded like a sword.
Hivyo, kulingana na sheria ya polisi na polisi wasaidizi inayotoa maelekezo na masharti ya kufanya, kukusanya, kuunda au kufanya mkusanyiko au maandamano, na kutokana na mbinu za kihalifu ambazo zimebainika wakihamasishana kuzitumia kuanzia tarehe 9 Disemba 2025, maandamano hayo yanayopewa jina la maandamano ya amani na yasiyo na kikomo yamekosa sifa za kisheria.
Maandamano.
All right. So you realize that every other military leader just denounced the kind of demonstrations that some Tanzanians were willing to conduct, indicating that these demonstrations were beyond demonstration. They were, because they don't know who are conducting it, and they don't know how long they are conducting it, because some young people have said that they are supposed to go on forever. And so they had to give it a new name and call it a coup, so that they can justify putting people indoors. Now, is this going to be the trend in Tanzania going forward? Will there ever be an Independence Day celebration? Do we have justification of picketing in Tanzania again? Or will this be the trend with military vehicles, the police, and all over the places? And of course, I believe the money that is being used on the police is just too much. They can't justify that they don't have money, but they can have all those armies on the streets. What I understand equally, they are maybe ready with the Vitoza machozi, that is the tear gas. They must be armed with the tear gas. They must be having fuel for their vehicles. And when you look at the caravans of the kind of vehicles they are using, they are high-level military vehicles. That means they have used a lot of money. And you cannot justify that you could not actually have this money to hold Independence Day, but you could have money to, reinforce this kind of treatment. Still, I feel like if the government is so ready with the armies all over the place, they could still allow people to conduct their normal activities, but they would have had meetings where they are ready to talk to the demonstrators, restrain them and let them share their fate, but they have not done so. Bashir Sani, good morning. For Kenya, it's almost afternoon, because it's already 1:07, and I'm so appreciative for all of you who are coming to my channel. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and continue sharing. Yeah, so some protesters, of course, came out to say that they are going to demonstrate whether Suluhu likes it or not. And I want us to just check whether this is really possible. And let's just check on this here. All right.
Tuelekee Tanzania. Watanzania hawatokuwa
maandamano Jumanne hii kudai haki baada ya uchaguzi mkuu uliokumbwa na utata. Ni wazi kwamba polisi wa Tanzania walitumia nguvu kupita kiasi kukabili waandamanaji baada ya uchaguzi wa Oktoba.
Huyu nani Tanzania?
Katika mahojiano ya kipekee na runinga KTN, mmoja wa waathiriwa wa ukatili huo wa polisi ambaye ni mkazi wa Tanzania, Kevin Nyamori, anaeleza jinsi alivyopigwa risasi.
Kwa mtaa ambayo naishi mimi, hata maandamano nadhani hayakufanyika, lakini risasi zilipigwa nyingi sana. Ndipo walitukuta mtaani katika harakati ya kukimbia, kwa sababu kila mtu anakimbia kuponya roho yake. Ndio nikapigwa risasi ya mguu wa kushoto, na ni bahati tu kwa sababu baada ya kupigwa risasi ya mguu niliweza kukimbia kama mita 20 hivi ili kuwakimbia zaidi, vinginevyo ningeanguka pale wangenimaliza.
Nyamori anasema kuwa hospitali za Tanzania zilikataa kabisa kushughulikia watu waliokuwa wamepigwa risasi na polisi, kwani serikali ilikuwa macho.
Kila hospitali ukienda walikuwa naogopa kupokea majeruhi. Walikuwa naogopa kwa sababu ya zile story kwamba baadaye polisi wangeweza kufika sehemu zile. Na huo ushahidi upo kwa sababu hata baada ya kwenda nyumbani bado waliendelea kutufuatilia.
Yeah, so guys, you realize that in Tanzania, during that moment of demonstrations, during the election period, those who were actually hurt, possibly shot in the leg or shot somewhere in the stomach or wherever, they were actually pursued and killed. And for those who survived, even when they went home, the government was still following them up. Hospitals were they were not receiving patients because they were afraid of how the government would pursue them for treating the patients. And some of the people were actually taken to the mortuary. Some of them were not dead yet. And we have bodies which were carried to the mortuaries or hospitals, and later on, they were never seen at all, okay? Balistri is saying when the government and military work together to subjection, the problems arise. I am worried for the future of Tanzania. I'm worried too. I am worried too, and that's why I'm doing this video, because I just wonder, what is the fate of Tanzania then from what has happened and what has been running all along? Ladainan says, what's wrong? Which Askal? What are you saying? Ladanian, I don't understand. Okay. Yeah, so I said clearly when I was starting this video that I'm in a cold place and I'm covering my head because of the cold. So I don't know whether Ladian just walked in and you did not go back to check on my video from the beginning. Then you began to actually ask some questions that are absurd. But anyway, it is what it is. I thank you guys for coming to my channel. I'm so appreciative. So let's just check. You realize that this person is testifying about the shooting that he received and the fact that he had to run a distance away from the army because they had been ordered to shoot and kill. But he was so lucky that he ran away and actually fell off at a distance, and that's why he was able to survive. And when he went to hospitals, he was not actually attended to by many hospitals because they said that they would be pursued by the government. And currently he has a wound that he did not actually go for, because he says he was not a demonstrator and he was not actually participating in demonstrations in Tanzania. So what is happening with the government in Tanzania is simply dictatorial or authoritarian leadership, where Samia wants to frustrate the leaders and those opposition citizens at the same time to make sure that they are subjects and they have nothing they can talk about in relation to Tanzania itself. Warren Arnold says this was a training of 2027. Training for what? And Warren Arnold said, hi, thank you so much. John Opiche. Balstrike Bandito says, thank you for all your effort in getting to the word out about what's going on. Welcome, welcome. And it's unfortunate, actually, when you look at the Tanzanians and even the people on the grassroots. And of course, many people have been fearing to share things about that because of the consequences possibly that are expected. Aganji says, how do you have internet in your country? Of course, internet is currently there. Tom Likaya, hey, hello, welcome. Now let's get to the situation in Kenya. Of course, we understand that Kenya, people have been so much into a kind of political war. And I just want to quickly look at ODM and the unwinding kind of conflict that is going on with the people kind of confused and regretting of having joined the broad-based government. So let's check into this.
Is that even those of us in ODM, we cannot wait for 2027 to make up our minds. We must make up our minds early.
A year ago, ODM struck a deal with President William Ruto under the ban of a broad-based government. Political handshake dressed up as national unity.
We seek a more equitable country in which all peoples of all backgrounds are included in the enjoyment of socio-economic benefits and are equal members.
Fast forward 12 months later, and the honeymoon phase is clearly over. ODM is now nursing what? Fast forward 12 months later, and the honeymoon phase is clearly over. ODM is now nursing what Homa Bay Senator Moses Kajwang bluntly describes as a 202 feeling.
You see, it will be 35 years. For the last 35 years, our community has always had a presidential candidate. From 1992, Jaramogi, all the way to the last election. This could be the first election where our community does not have a candidate. I'm not saying it is going to be, I'm saying it could be the first election where our community does not have a candidate.
Now, guys, if you look at that, ODM is actually at crossroads, and considering the fact of emphasis by most of the leaders that they are going to work with broad-based government, they are possibly unwilling to have a candidate to be filed for 2027 elections. Arat actually said that he is preparing for the 2032 elections and not 2027. When you look at Sifuna, he insists they must have a candidate, But as I said earlier in other reactions, you cannot have a party actually preparing its citizens in the candidate who are supposed to run for election for 2027, preparing in 2027. So automatically now people feel like ODM might not be filing a candidate. And when you listen to what Opio is saying here and indicating that it might be the first time, he is already aware of what he's talking about. Only that he doesn't want to say it. He's mincing his words. But the reality check tells us otherwise. Tim Lihaya says, we are all humans, just let us be responsible, respectful, and talk to each other. Of course, there is need for that. And that is what I believe Tanzania should do. Get into a dialogue with the oppositions, talk to each other, and find a solution. However, I'm not seeing Suluhu being ready for that. When you look at her and her people around her, they are not willing to have that dialogue. And it's unfortunate I'm a woman, but I would actually tell you that sometimes when a woman has decided absolutely to stand against some things, they tend to be so rigid. They tend to be so rigid. Because if they hate, they hate. If they loathe, they loathe. There's no otherwise in this. And I just tend to see that Samia is actually applying that in her leadership. And currently, that's why we have kind of a challenge in Tanzania. But anyways, let's go back to this discussion right here.
The only other time that we didn't have a candidate as a community was in the year 2002 when Raila Odinga supported Mwai Kibaki.
And for those with a short political memory, that was the year Raila Odinga was lured into Kanu with promises of power. Only for the then president.
And for those who are there, our support for Mwai Kibaki was an accident. And let me clarify why it was an accident. Raila took his party for the sake of national unity and merged with KANU. Mpaka watu wakasema, jogoo imemeza tingatinga. Raila became the Secretary General of KANU. He became the Minister of Energy. Adua Witi became the Minister for Planning. Orwa Ojode and Peter Doyo became Assistant Ministers. Ochieno Kajwang became the Secretary for Legal and Constitutional Affairs in KANU. Moi gave us a taste of government. We were hopeful that Moi was either going to hold our hands or hand over the leadership to Raila Odinga and his team. Moi took the rungu and gave it to Uhuru Kenyatta. It was at the last minute, we had all our hopes that Moi was going to support us. But he gave the rungu to somebody else. Akatuacha mataa. Ilibidi tujipange. Raila Molo first went and talked with Nyachai, Simeon Nyachai. So they first discussed, but then he realized the ground was with the other side. So he rushed to Uhuru Park, and in the month of October 2002, he said Kibaki Tosha for an election that was to be held in December of that year. When he went there, he found all the positions had already been negotiated. The vice president was already assigned to Kijana Wamanwa. Senior positions had already been given. Martha Karua, Kiraitu Murungi, all those people, they had already taken positions. We came late in October, supported Mwai Kibaki on the understanding that there was going to be created a position of prime minister. When Kibaki took over power, he was told those guys came too late. They did not help us in any way. They did not contribute to our victory. And that is why we were playing. The position of prime minister was not created.
You see, under the MOU, several ODM-aligned figures were handed government positions. In public, they have sung Ruto's praises with remarkable consistency, praising his development agenda, defending his policies, and in some cases, looking more loyal than his own UDA foot soldiers.
As a community, there is something we believe in, that a leader, before he dies, a leader knows his death, but he doesn't talk about his death.
Tuelewane, siwezi kuwa mahali ambaye Raila hakunipeleka. And I must say it today here, I was taken to government of William Ruto by Raila Amolo Odinga.
Lazima tumshukuru Mheshimiwa Rais Ruto kwa kufungua ukurasa mpya wa uongozi na ya maendeleo. Kwa sababu yeye ndiye rais wa kwanza ambaye ameamua ya kwamba hii nchi ni kubwa na ni ya kila mtu.
Voice is simply faster, more natural, and more flexible than typing. He said he's
Okay, Tom Lihaya, who is a Tanzanian here? You don't understand that I'm a Kenyan, right? Be aware that I am one, okay? So I'm not a Tanzanian, I'm a Kenyan, and I'm just doing analysis of political stuff from all over Africa and even other places. You get it? So Tom Lihaya, stop thinking that I'm a Tanzanian, I'm a Kenyan. I'm not a Tanzanian, you get it? So whatever you're saying here about charity begins at home, my home is Kenya, okay? You are also saying we're still in post-colonial mindset. I don't know what you mean there. You say wake up people. I don't know whether you're talking to Tanzanian possibly. You're also saying it's not about politics. We all have power to change our destiny. Of course, everybody has power to change their destiny. You're also saying Tanzania must concentrate on Tanzania. Which is impossible because you remember even yesterday Kenyans were talking about Tanzania, especially the human rights people. You are also saying, remember, together strong, divided we achieve zero. Of course, that is very true. But I just sympathize with what's happening in ODM currently because when you look at the possible hopelessness, and especially what Cherargei told ODM recently, it's unfortunate that regardless of their sacrifice, there might just be a loss than a gain. And of course, the reality about broad-based government will come out in after elections. Currently, we may not see it very well, but just after elections, and in case the Cherargei, Sudi, Farouk, and those people win, that is exactly when you will see the true picture of what the broad-based government was really, what it is. But you may not understand that currently. But anyway, let's hope for the best. Thank you so much for watching. I'm coming to an end of our video. I'll be coming up with another in the evening. Of course, 2 videos. One social reaction video, and another one will be a political reaction on Live Saga TV. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye for now. Have a nice lunch for those who are going for lunch. Have a nice day for those who are starting their day. And good moment for you all along. So I'll just remind you guys, consider subscribing to the channel and always watch my videos. Bye-bye for now. Let's meet later in other streams. Thank you so much for watching. Like and comment. Thank you.